this is Sally Morgan, Tellington T-Touch practitioner, physical therapist, and craniosacral therapist for animals and people. And this is Tristan. Say hi. He's a Corgi, and this is like episode 78 of Conversations with a Corgi. And today we're pretty much wrapping up our wrap episodes, and we're going to be looking at the hip leg wrap. But first, let me continue the saga of the tick situation. Oh my God. So at the end of the show yesterday, I was hugging Tristan and found a lump under his elbow. It was the biggest tick I've ever pulled off of a dog, and I've had big dogs. This is shocking on this little guy, way up under his armpit. I mean, I'm telling you, any inch, speck, square centimeter of this dog that I do not get heavily seared is full of ticks. It's really alarming. I don't know what to do. But today, as you know, I've become a young living person, and I have some essential oils that arrived in the mail, geranium and cedar, and I already had peppermint and some other things. So I have a little recipe that I'm going to mix up and use that like alternately with the cedar. And this one will smell better, and I have a different kind of bottle for it, so I will be able to spray him a little more thoroughly. So far, none have been in his ears. So part 2 of the continuing tick saga, I put on my PJs to come downstairs this morning, and had to use the restroom, and as I looked down, on the thigh of my PJs was a tick. And thank God I wasn't sleeping in those PJs, or I would have been really freaked out. But I sit on the sofa for my breakfast with that lovely blue blanket on me that the ticks seem to think is a dog. So I am sure it crawled from that fleece to the micro fleece of my PJs and was living on the leg of my PJs. This is quite alarming. I have checked that blanket 100 times. I didn't see any ticks on it. I have vacuumed the sofa, around the sofa. In fact, I steam cleaned all the floors in the house maybe 5 days ago. So I think these are isolated tick cases, but they are just so terrible. And honestly, the ones on the sofa are likely coming from me, and I love my hammock. I went out to lay in my hammock, not with my head on the pillow, but just leaning back against it for maybe 5 minutes with my hair balled up in a bun. But I think that some of those ticks came off the hammock and onto me, and the hemlocks, hammock is between 2 hemlocks, and the hemlocks are like 50 feet high. So if those ticks have crawled up into the hemlock boughs, they're falling on me from like 20 and 30 feet up. I don't know. I, of course, brush off the hammock thoroughly before I sit on it. I've thought about going out there with like a clean white sheet and laying on that so that I'll see them if they fall on me, and I will be able to cover any that have pre-fallen. But I just don't want to go in my yard. It's really upsetting. And my neighbor has a dog that had really bad Lyme, anaplasmosis, and I think Ehrlichia last year. And she has given in to giving her dog the monthly pill because the dog was so sick. She doesn't want to risk her getting sick again. It is really a terrible problem here. I don't know. I don't want to put a topical on Tristan because I'm super sensitive and it will make me sick. I have a hard enough time using organic herbal sprays on him. But luckily, since his big bath last Tuesday, we haven't had too many, although I heard him scratching last night, so there's one on him somewhere, and we will have to find it. He was under the bed, so I couldn't see where it was. But that big one under his elbow, was quite alarming. It really was, except for pulling the one out of the middle of his ear, the worst tick experience I've had. So today we're going to continue our talk about the wraps, and we're going to look at one of my favorite wraps for the lower part of the body, which is the hip leg wrap. And by the way, I'm still experiencing shoulder reorganizing from my massage yesterday. It's better today, but not great. So to show you the hip leg wrap, I told you yesterday that I would love to have an American Girl doll because they're the perfect size to show you on this, and they're humanoid. Well, not to mention they might not be human, but they're humanoid. I realized what I had in the house was a stiff teddy with his tag still on. He is not in box, however. So this teddy has 2 legs. This is the longest leg teddy I found. My sister had quite a few of them that she was disposing of when they moved. And this one, look at his charming head tilt. I just thought he would be a good teddy for me to have. And I have a few others upstairs that I rescued from the sale bin. So, because I love stuffed animals. If you read my book, or maybe I've even mentioned it on here, when I was in Stuttgart, Germany, where the Steiff factory is, I actually went there to try to meet the people that tie the bows on the bunnies. They don't put bows on many animals anymore, but they wouldn't let me in the factory, and I didn't speak enough German to be able to talk my way in. But I had a beautiful week in Stuttgart. So this hip wrap is great. You can do it on 2 legs, but I'm just going to show you on 1 leg because Teddy's not that big. So you start on one side of your hip with 2 legs, with 2 wraps tied together because this is a long way down, and then you cross it on your hip, and you want to go over your greater trochanter, which is the fat part of your hip that sticks out on your thigh. And then you just wind your way down your leg, crisscrossing as you go. And then when you get to the bottom of your leg, see, it's just wrapped down Ted's leg and around his hip. You can do 1 or 2 or 3 things. You can wrap it around your ankle. What I really like to do, which hopefully my wraps will be long enough for me to do it today, is put the wrap under my foot, because that really gives you a connection through your whole leg up to your hip. Tristan, not enough room for you there, buddy? And so that way you can, one of the great things this wrap is good for is when you're riding, if you have a chronically short leg or you have trouble keeping your legs even in the stirrups, which, let's face it, anyone who drives a car has a chronically short leg, putting the wrap around the bottom of your foot is going to help you lengthen that leg down. It's also a really good one, as I've mentioned many times, for people after a stroke. On the stroke side leg, I have used this wrap, and boy, I have really seen a difference when I put it around the foot as opposed to stopping at the ankle. Particularly with people with a stroke, they lose a mental picture of their body in their head. And so to not include the foot is not helping them really that much, because the foot may not be in their frame of reference anyway. So connecting the foot with the wrap, even if they don't walk, and you're just doing the wrap this way on them with it connected to the foot, can be super helpful for people after a stroke. So, and that applies to cats and dogs too. I've seen quite a few cats after a stroke, not so many dogs, but we've used wraps like this for the leg that's dragging, and it's really been helpful. Cats recover pretty quickly after fairly minor strokes, I would say, based on the kitties I've seen. Of course, if they have a pretty massive stroke, they're not here anymore. And, you know, sometimes people would recommend putting the cat down, so I may not have seen a wide dispersal of different effects of stroke on cats, but I sure have seen, for the amount of animals I've seen a good percentage of cats after a stroke. So this is the wrap that Ted's sporting. Let me just try to put this wrap on myself and then show you how it works. Once again, I'm wearing a pair of yoga pants so you can see me and where the wrap's going. So for this one, I have to stand up to do it. So you start with it around your waist, like below your waist really. You want it on your hip. You bring it around your middle. And I just unrolled them, so this is going to be a little trickier. And you want them to cross right about where the wide part at the top of your thigh is, which is your greater trochanter, which is part of your hip bone. Then you're just going to crisscross your way down the leg. And again, I don't necessarily put the wrap on the joint. Oh good, I do have enough to do my foot. So let's just show you this wrap. It started at my hips. It went down, crisscrossed down my leg, and then I have it around my foot. I don't know if you can see that very well. So it's crisscrossed down my leg, and then I have it under my foot. Now, what I love about this wrap is obviously for moving in it, walking in it, but I'll just sit here and talk to you about what it's doing today because you won't be able to follow me moving because I don't have anyone but Tristan and he's not that good at holding the camera. So I've had some trouble with my right hip off and on. It's my chronically short leg, and I have trouble keeping it the correct length. It took a hard-worn 6 months when I learned some leg leveling techniques at one of my outpatient jobs years ago to get that leg lengthened because the psoas was so very short. I drive a lot, and so, and I had been riding with a short leg too, which wasn't helpful. And I had had some falls, 1 or 2 from horses. So it took a long time to get that leg even with the other one. And really it wasn't because the bones are different lengths, which is what most people think. It was because the muscles in my psoas were so tight from driving and sitting with my leg cocked up. And then I get a habitual gait pattern from that, sitting on level. And I chronically could not keep my foot in the right stirrups. Thank God for Sally Swift, because once I started walking around with my leg and swinging it with the horse before I ever put my foot in the stirrup, I was much more likely to be level, and it worked out way better for my horses. Luckily, my hips were more level than my actual leg length, and so my horses always had pretty clear cues about shoulder in and haunches in and canter departs and lead changes because I was really able to change the weight in my hips pretty well once I had some lessons with Linda Tellington and Sally Swift. So anyway, I use this now because many years later, my right hip sometimes just doesn't feel that good. I have more osteoporosis in that hip than anywhere else in my body, and I am doing a lot of alternative stuff for that, which seems to be working, but slowly. It takes a long time to restore bone growth in your body. So every once in a while, that hip just was really getting sore, and maybe 2 months ago, when I started doing the wraps with the dog episodes, I started wearing this on my hip for a little bit around the house, and it really helped. It really just gives you a good sense of the connection between your body and your leg. And I don't actually have this snug enough around the top of my hips. That would probably be better for me. But having it connected all the way to the foot can be really great. Now, when I'm walking around the house, having it connected to the foot isn't always the best thing. And sometimes I walk with it connected to my foot and then disconnect it and just wrap it around my ankle. And that actually, using that combination, is really helpful for me. So you might experiment with this if you have a problem. Most of us do have a hip problem, a knee problem, or a leg that's not the same as the other problem. And trying this wrap could be really useful. And try it with it wrapped all the way around the foot. See, it goes all the way under the foot. Or you can just end it on your ankle. And also I experiment with where I place the bottom of the wrap on my foot. Right now I have it kind of close to my heel, but you might also put it up where we, in Sally Swift riding, call the bubbling spring, which is right at the base of where your toes start to meet the fascia of your foot. And that will give you another whole feeling about the wrap when you're walking in it. So it's really important to think about, how the wrap is placed. If it's not working well or you don't feel like it's really getting what you want, just try even moving where the crosses are on the way down. Ted has a cross on his hip and a cross below his knee, but for instance with him, you might snug this up and put 3 crosses down his leg to maybe help that knee more. If you've had a history of knee problems, you might want to put one of the X's right around the knee to help the tendon under the patella and above the patella tendon, function a little better. Knees historically have been studied a lot for the effects of biofeedback in tracking the knee. There's tons of research on this, and it's well documented that biofeedback works really well for helping people train how the knee is tracking when they walk, so it's not sliding off to one side or the other. The machine, you put a little machine on you with these little stick-on electrodes, and it beeps when the knee goes off to the one side or the other as you're stepping, and then that goes into your brain and it retrains you to walk keeping your knee straight. And I've used it a lot with, well, where I was working, we had a lot of gymnasts and a lot of ballerinas that had problems with their knees. So it was super helpful for them because they were athletes and they were really in their bodies most of the time and really used to working with their bodies. So if you have knee problems, experiment with how you put the X on the wrap around your knee. And you can purposely target the joints in your leg with the X's, do your hip, your knee, and your ankle, and then around your foot, or you can purposely avoid the joints, depending on how it feels to you. So, these wraps really are a work in progress, and, whatever is working for you is what you should do. That's always the way it is with T-Touch. If something's hurting or doesn't feel good, don't do it. And that's true with most alternative medicine. Part of it is listening to your body and doing what your body wants and says it needs. And then the other half of it is being creative and having contact with enough people in different fields of alternative medicine to find different options to try so that you have things to reject or accept depending on what your body's feedback is. So that is the hip leg wrap that I showed you today. And again, you started up around your side with the middle of your two wraps connected here, and then brought them down and crisscrossed them down your leg as on TED, and then put them around your foot if you have enough wrap. If you don't have enough wrap, you can also just get a third wrap and do the foot and then connect it in. Or if you're really tall, you might be able to do 3 wraps and not have gallons of wrap left at the bottom. If I had put this a little tighter, I would have more than ample wrap to do my leg. And I have a pretty long leg, so I would think 2 wraps will cover most people's leg wrap needs. And I'm using a 3-inch wrap today. I think the 2-inch wrap would be a little bit thin feeling. So if you have a 3 or 4-inch wrap, I think that would be better. And depending on the size of your leg, I know that I would feel better maybe with the 4-inch wrap because it would cover more of me and feel a little more comforting. But as I said yesterday or a couple days ago, when you use a thinner wrap, it gives you a different sensation than using a thicker wrap. So I'm feeling, pretty good with this wrap today, and I wouldn't use the wider one, but, because this is giving me a lot of feedback because it's thinner. If I wanted a little less feedback, I might use the thicker one. And I'll tell you, I need to wrap this shoulder because it is just not a happy camper. So this is Tristan. He's a Corgi. He's wearing his plaid bow tie today. We have an exciting day planned for him lounging around the house. This morning, he was barking and barking and barking, and I looked out the window. I didn't see anybody. And my neighbor has seen a bear going between our houses, but there's like 10 acres between us, and it's all woods and swamp and ex-beaver pond and stuff. So I wasn't too concerned that the bear was coming here. The way they travel is really through her side yard, like an acre from her house. Not so much down at my end. I've hardly ever seen bears here. The pond here is just really unpleasant to have to walk through, and up there's a pretty good place to cross it. So when he was barking, I thought, oh my gosh, the bear is in my yard. That's all I need. But in fact, after I looked and looked, I had to look 3 times. Up the road, far up the hill, the deer, the 4 deer, the 2 moms and kids from last year were crossing the road. And they were not sprinting. They were kind of dawdling and looking around and checking out my field to see where they wanted to come in. And this was making Tristan bark incessantly. He's a very good alerter about what's around the yard, and actually I'm really grateful for that because we're pretty isolated where we are, and one good thing about dogs is that they do bark when they see things that are out of the ordinary, including the postal carrier. He loves to bark up the mail person, and he brings him treats sometimes, and Tristan really likes him, but he sure does bark. So today, Tristan's going to lounge around here and keep an eye out for whatever critters are crossing the yard, not the ticks. And I have the great luck of connecting with one of my old students from the prep school where I worked for 10 or 11 years. And in fact, my first group of students there that graduated, I was teaching juniors and seniors, are having their 30th reunion this weekend. So I am going to jump in the car later today and drive out to the Berkshires, to Berkshire School where I taught. It's the 10th largest boarding school in the country. I taught there for, like I said, about a decade. And this first group of students were some of my closest pals. They were really only like 5, 6, 7, 10 years younger than I am. So I feel pretty close to them, and it is really fascinating to me to see how people change from who they were in high school to who they are now. And in fact, one of the kids in this group who wasn't registered to be at this event, but he's still teaching there, he's an English teacher at the school now, so it'd be fun to catch up with him. Was he my star English pupil? No, but he worked hard and he liked the language, so he became an English teacher. So I'm pretty excited about going out there and connecting with some of my old students. One of the women was on Broadway and starred in several shows. She was always an amazing actress. I mean, it's just incredible how people's lives end up. And I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, I found my college roommate online after searching and searching every few years, and she in fact is living in a town about 30 miles south of me. She's on vacation right now, but I can't wait to connect with her and see what her life has been like, because we were very similar in our interests and our pursuits and our school skills, and she worked with me at the college paper, and we just had so many really fun times. So I can't wait to see how she's doing, and she's still married to the same fellow she met in college all those years ago. So this is Sally Morgan and Tristan, who's a Corgi, in his plaid bow. Hopefully no ticks are on this dog or in my house. Oh my gosh, my mother keeps reminding me about the ticks that were loose in her house when we were kids, and then in my grandmother's house. That would just be awful. Hi Pat, enjoy the day. Yeah, you need to see the shoulder wrap? I will show it to you right now because I'm going to do one I'm inventing just for me, and it might be good for you. And actually, I was going to use a 2-inch wrap, but I'm going to use a 3-inch wrap. What I would typically do for what I'm feeling right now is a crossing guard wrap, but I know that on my right side would not like that. So I am just going to throw this wrap over my shoulder and cross it down on one side. Bring one piece to the front, one piece to the back. It's a half crossing guard wrap is what I have here. And Velcro it. And then I feel like I need it a little snugger. There. Tristan, can you not be sitting on me for a minute? Thank you. So that feels way better already, Pat, I can tell you. I couldn't lift my arm that high this morning. The wrap really helps. I mean, it's just encouraging me to use the muscles under my scapula when I lift my arm instead of the ones here that are really for my neck. I can barely turn my head because these are all, half of them are in spasm and half of them are released completely from my massage. So we're trying to get the other ones to release. That would be ideal. So that's the shoulder wrap I'm using. It's just down across one shoulder. I don't know if you can see. Down around my waist and then cross to the other side. Not very neat and tidy, but it is helping me. So I'm just going to wear the shoulder wrap for a little while today. We're continuing to clean the house. I'm doing laundry and things because I have a pretty busy week next week. And I will be back tomorrow at around 9:25. I have a really interesting story about one of my clients that I want to talk to you about tomorrow. I dream of going in the yard because it's so beautiful, although it is kind of cloudy and the lawn furniture is soaking wet. So I don't know that being in the yard will be that much fun, but it's a really beautiful story I want to share with you. I have a deck on the front of the house that is dry and tick-free, so maybe we'll go out there and you can see the garden. We need to see that shoulder wrap. It's on me right now. See? It just goes over the shoulder. I just did it diagonally down my back here. Ted will show you. Ted. And there are many episodes with shoulder wraps if you look back either on YouTube or on my Facebook page. I just went across one shoulder, you know, like a Girl Scout thing, and then crossed at the waist. And that was just enough to reach to the side. So this is what we would call a crossing guard wrap. Usually they X across both sides, but I just have it on one side. And it's feeling pretty good. See, Ted's modeling. Ted's very proud of his wrap modeling skills. So have a great day, everyone. Stay out of the ticks. Enjoy some time with your dogs. My sister's in Michigan. I'm sure she will have some interesting stuff to share. And tomorrow, the story I have is really amazing. So please stay tuned for that at about 9:25. Have a great day, everyone. And Linda Bickford or any of the other Corgi people that are local, the Ashfield Corgi Picnic is usually around this time of year. Not that I'm excited about running around in a field full of ticks right now, but if that Corgi Picnic is taking place, let me know because we really enjoy it and I missed it last year. But I think they're not having it. I think that woman lost her Corgi and I don't know if she has a new puppy yet. So anybody that's local who has a Corgi, let me know about the Ashfield Corgi Picnic. And everybody else, have a great day and stay away from the bugs out there. Bye-bye.